Welcome to Chase Your Dreams. With the COVID-19 situation, we've decided to do our talk show in a stay-at-home format. We want all of our viewers to be safe and understand that during these challenging times that we're all in this together. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy Chase Your Dreams, where dreams become reality. Show everyone. I want to introduce a great person I've known many years. And this is our first time coming on to the show for Chase Your Dreams, the place where dreams become reality. Want to introduce Denise, who is the proud owner of 2 funeral homes. And she's also a very inspirational person in my life. I've known her a long time, very positive, upbeat. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start off talking about careers. Wanted to find out specifically, because a lot of people don't really look at the funeral industry as a career to get into because of the nature of what it is. But I'm curious, what made you decide to get into the funeral industry?
Well, my mom, for one thing. My mom drugged me to the funeral home with her. My mom was actually one of the representatives from the family that would have to go down to the funeral home to make sure that our loved one was prepared properly. And then being a church girl, my grandmother was a mother of the church, and she had hat boxes, and those were my caskets. And I would bury birds, cat, everything as a young age. And it was just something that I got curious about as a young girl growing up on the west side of Chicago, seeing death a lot in our family. And I was curious about how they got in the casket. How do you dress them laying down? How do you just make them look like they was asleep? So that would led my journey for funeral service. And also to add to that, I didn't see a lot of women. It was mostly men based. So I was determined to be a female funeral director because women, we kind of have a little softer touch because God made us emotionally. So that's just a little spiel about how I got into it.
That is very interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard it from a childhood perspective, and that's a very deep subject to be in, you know. So
yes. I'm
proud of you for that.
Thank you.
I was curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, now I'm curious what your question was.
I was just going to say, so you said that you were curious about, sounds like the logistics of it. Were you also curious from like a scientific standpoint or like a spiritual standpoint when it came to death and funerals?
Yes. I was growing up in the Baptist church. They always said, well, when you pass on, that your spirit is still living. So it was just a shell. But being young, I didn't really know like I know now, as far as, it's just a shell and your spirit go on to live with God. So yeah, at an early age, I was very curious. I'm the middle child, so they always say the middle childs are the weird ones. So I mean, I just took it and I just ran with it. It's not a career that everybody would grow up and say, "Oh, I want to be a funeral director." No, it's I want to be a model, or I wanted to be a Barbie doll. For me, it was different.
Sure.
That's great.
So tell me,
how did your? Oh, I was going to say, how does your family receive that? Did they enjoy? Obviously, you're a business owner, so that's an exemplary thing to be. So, how was your family when you told them, that I'm thinking of this path?
Well, my grandmother already knew, like I said, from a young child. Once she saw that I was using her hat boxes, which back in the day I didn't know that you that she had to buy them. So once she found out that, I mean, she would just whoop me because I would always use her boxes. So after she found out that the whoopings wasn't doing any good, she had a friend at Sherman's shoe store, and he would give her empty boxes. And those was my caskets I can play with. And then my grandfather, he had handkerchiefs, and that would be the lining of the casket. So after they saw that I was serious about it, they were very supportive of me doing it. Yeah.
That's so great.
Wow, so this is definitely a passion for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In terms of different roles, I've heard, you know, funeral director and mortician kind of used interchangeably. What are the different roles, and what do they do? Like, what is an embalmer?
Okay. Well, the different roles is the embalmer. That's the person that prepares the body through different embalming techniques to help preserve the body for viewing purposes. Such as like setting the eyes, setting the mouth, the dressing, the makeup, the casketing. But it's different careers that you can go off into. You can be a funeral director without being an embalmer. You might just want to, the funeral directing just deals with the grieving family. It's just the business aspect. But you can be a funeral director, you can be an embalmer, you can have a removal service. That's just someone that's just removed the bodies from either the medical examiner office or the homes. You can be a grief counselor, an insurance agent, a crematory operator, a restorative art specialist. That's someone that's just come in if someone that was really face was really had a lot of definition in it from like a fire or from a accident. You know, they the one that comes in and specializes and make the face look properly. A psychiatrist, a pre-need consultation. There's many different attributes that you can just pick from this one career.
Wow. So within all of those different options, you know, those different career choices, what would you say for the ones like embalmers and the ones who really prepare and the funeral director, where do you go for training for that kind of career?
It's a 2-year program. Okay. In Chicago, it's either Malcolm X College of Funeral Service, which that's the school that I attended, or Worsham. They're in, I think, Wheeling, Illinois. They're a 1-year program. Okay. But it's basically a 2-year program because you earn your associate's degree in mortuary science. And it basically teaches you the basics of funeral directing skills, as far as the embalming, accounting, chemistry, microbiology, anatomy, and it teaches you also how to run a funeral home on a day-to-day basis.
That's really great. That's a lot.
Yeah. So what type of person should go into this industry, or what sort of traits should a person have if they were going into this field?
Well, funeral service industry is a very unique field. Okay. And it's a specialty. It's a calling, just like a minister. It's a calling. You have to be compassionate, patient with families, caring, generous, determined, great customer service skills, availability, understanding, and most of all, commitment. Wow. Families trust you. So that makes a big difference. And it's a life-changing experience that you give the families.
Sure.
Hey, Denise, I was kind of curious. You don't see it a lot, but the new thing that's been going out now was setting up your loved one in these unique positions, you know, where they're sitting at a table, they're standing up. I don't know if this is a great trend, but I mean, have you had to deal with, you know, families that have these very unique requests for their funeral?
Sometimes, just mainly not the sitting at the table thing. I think that was like in New Orleans somewhere, but to just have the casket propped up, you know, like they were standing up. But most of the time, people really don't get into that because of what I guess, I don't know if it's a fear that looking at a deceased body kind of like standing up versus laying down. So for the most part, we just deal with them, just laying in the casket. I haven't had too many crazy requests like that. Thank God.
Yeah. So is there continuing education you have to go through, or any like state certifications you have to keep re-upping, or is this, once you go to school and you graduate, you're done?
No, you keep going. You keep having refresher classes because it's always different trends, different laws. Let's see, different techniques, like embalming techniques. Mm-hmm. So like when waterless embalming first came out, I got trained on that. So you never stop learning. Mm. You never stop learning. It's totally different from when I started years ago. So the trends keep going because you have now the younger people that want certain things versus a traditional service for an older person. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Did you also have all of us at the same time?
I'm sorry,
we're very interested. I was going to say, the only thing that you haven't mentioned yet was cremation. Is that something that particular funeral homes choose to do and not, or do they all offer them, or?
Yeah, most of us, we offer cremations. Now cremations is a trend because it's much economical. I wouldn't say cheap. It's more economical versus a burial, because when you do a burial, you have to get a tombstone as well. Some people do, some people don't, but I've done more cremations now than I'd done before, because back in the day, it wasn't known for cremations. It was just a funeral and a burial. So now it's more economical for people to have choices.
Got it. So and you have that, sorry, you have that's in your facility, or do people have it? So is it
no,
somewhere else?
It's an outsource.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was like, that's a lot too.
Yeah. And like I said, one of the careers, you can be a cremation operator. That's one of the entities as well. If you don't want to deal with the public, you deal with the funeral home with that part.
Okay. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
No, I was just thinking, you started to mention cost. So I was just curious, as far as, because funerals are expensive by nature, what drives that cost up? Is it just the supplies that you guys need are so expensive? I mean, or is it just because so many people are involved in one funeral that, it's for kind of labor costs? What drives that price?
It's a little bit of all of that. What drives the cost sometimes is depending on what the family wants. Sure. I try to keep my prices economical as possible, but some families want, just say if I offer 100 obituaries with the package, that may not be enough. So they might not want the standard obituary, they might want the magazine look. And of course, that's gonna be way up in the 800-900 figures. And it depends on the casket that they select. Sure. As well. So it's many different reasons why the cost can go up, mainly because of the family, what they choose.
Okay.
Hey Nisi, if someone was looking right now at our show, and maybe it's someone that has been very curious, very interested in this industry, what would you suggest that they do right now to make that dream become reality?
Well, what I think is that they should partner with someone that's already in the industry to show them the ropes. I went to school with a lot of people that didn't do that. And when it came down going to the medical examiner office to practice on the cadavers, they didn't have the stomach for it. They was just going in because they was curious, or they didn't read any literature. But I tell people, go to Google. Google tells you everything. And it actually shows you some embalming processes as well. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of people that didn't do that. So by me doing it, I guess I say kind of backwards, where I was in the funeral industry before I went to school for it. I knew the ins and the outs. And yes, it was a scary situation sometime, because at those particular times, when the deceased person, when they kind of like lose their, bodily fluids, they might raise up, their hand might flop over. Now the family kind of waits and to pick a funeral home. So I don't have to experience that like I used to do back in the day. So I would just rather for them to partner or talk to someone who's in the industry to kind of show them the ropes, the embalming techniques, just to see if it's for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Before they start school and waste their money.
Sure.
That's great advice.
Well, we're going to continue on, and we're going to move into the mental health prospect. So for right now, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Everyone, we're into our second segment with our great guest Denise. We're going to talk about the mental health portion of the funeral industry, and specifically dealing with the loss of a loved one. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Denise.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, how do you personally prepare to talk with a loved one about their loss? Which a lot of times are going to be very recent, and there's a lot of high emotions going on. How do you prepare for that meeting?
Well, first of all, I pray that God give us strength to be able to make it through the conversation. Putting myself in the family shoes, I treat each family like they were my own. So being ready at all times, you have to be ready at all times, because you never know when you're going to get that call.
So basically, it's really not a 9-to-5 job, because obviously you never know when you're going to get the call. Are you guys on like a rotating basis where someone's on call at all times?
Me. By me being the owner, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
So in your experience, are the different stages of grief, are they real? Have you seen all of those played out for you in your years?
Oh, yes. There are different types of emotions. There are 5 stages of grief. And the 5 stages is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And basically everyone experience and process grief differently. It's not a time frame. It affects you mentally and physically. I know some people have what they call died from a broken heart, that they just have a heart attack because they can't live without that spouse, and normally I see it within married people that's been married a long time. If the man pass away, then the woman, she dies from a broken heart because she can't live without him. So I think people should talk to a therapist. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a part of life, and also teaches you how to cope and deal with how to living without that person.
Now, you have ways, obviously, to help people and support them through this. Now, how do you kind of give yourself a little self-care and balance out having to deal with death all the time and, mourning families? And then, does that ever seem to bleed over to you, or have you learned how to balance that?
I have learned how to balance it. It took years to learn how to balance.
Yeah.
First of all, much prayer. I also see a therapist as well myself, because of seeing death all the time. It kind of takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
I love arts and crafts, so I do stuff on the side. I have date nights with my hubby. We go out of town. Some days he just say, okay, well, this weekend you're not working. We just going away for a getaway.
That's
So
very
kind of
nice.
keep me, and massages as well,
Yeah.
with the stress. So just learning how to deal with it. Now it's easy now, but in the beginning it wasn't, because I would bring my work home. If you understand what I'm saying.
Oh,
And you know, if somebody said something to me out of the norm doing the funeral, now I can just chalk it up. It's one of the stages of grief. They don't mean it. So now I don't take it personal. So I can come home and relax and enjoy my family versus being, you know, kind of angry because of what that family member said to me.
Right. Wow. Good for you. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah. So what type of situations have you encountered because of this grief? I mean, you know, is there ever a time that people will lash out at you or be angry at you because of the situation, because of the loss?
Of course. Yes.
But how do you maintain your professionalism when you're getting yelled at?
Much prayer. Much prayer. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, okay. I gotta kind of I gotta keep it together, because I still have to remain professional. So now I don't take it to heart, because I know it's the stages of grief. And most of the time they wind up coming back and apologizing as well, you know. So I'll just let them know, okay, I understand that you're grieving, but the screaming and hollering, I don't tolerate being disrespected. So I do put my foot down, but not where I'm harsh.
Sure.
Because I'm still trying to, you know, put myself in their shoes, because I had to plan many of funerals, personal funerals for my loved ones. So I just always put myself in their shoes.
Now, you know, you just touched on an interesting question. Obviously, we've all, at one time or another, had to deal with the loss of a loved one close to us. And being that you're in the industry, how do you feel, or how do you deal with it when it's close to you, when it's an actual loved one of yours that you're dealing with death? How do you deal with that?
Well, how I deal with it is, I think of it as, now I think of it as it being a blessing, that by me being in this business, I'm able to spend time with them doing the embalming process, doing the dressing, and that's how I grieve. So that I'm able, when the service do come, that I'm able to kind of be strong for my family, but sometimes that don't work.
Sure.
Yeah.
But just spending that extra time, because I get more time with the person versus our family, because it's just the funeral, the visitation, then the funeral, but I'm there from day one. So that kind of helps me get through. And first of all, I know how they look. So it's just, you know, once I pray, and once I turn my music on, I just zone out. And it's not like I'm there preparing my personal loved one. It's just, it's like a artist painting their canvas. So I get into that mode, because I had to bury my first person that I actually had to bury was my grandmother. She was my first customer, and I'm like, really, Grandma, you do this to me? But you know, she helped me, you know, go to school, and she pushed me into helping me become the woman that I am today. So I was thankful, I was grateful that I was able to send her off.
Yeah. Wow. That's an amazing story, that you're this huge support who helped you learn this thing. Now you actually did the thing that you learned with her.
Right.
That's so amazing. Now, during this crazy time where everyone's locked down and, you know, we can't have services like we normally do, how has that been for you guys? And how has that been for the families? Like, virtual services or?
Yeah, we do virtual services to streaming. A lot of families, they're really understanding because they understand by the COVID and the amount of people that's not allowed.
Right. Sure.
So they're really working with us. So it's not so hard. So long as we have available the streaming where other people can feel like that they are part of the celebration, they're fine with it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's kind of difficult because they really want to go way out, but since they can't, it's kind of compact. So, but I try to pacify them as much as possible to kind of help them say, well, you know what, this was a great decision. It still turned out beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Have you ever experienced any weird situations? Like, for example, maybe someone passed away, and at the funeral, everyone kind of learned that besides their wife, they have a girlfriend type situation.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason I'm asking, because I have a family member who's a minister who, presides over funerals, and some of the stories she told me were unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
Oh no!
I want to hear all of them.
You name it, I encountered it.
Oh my God.
I had a situation that it was the wife and the girlfriend. And they actually sat down and planned the funeral together. They knew about each other. It wasn't a secret.
Wow.
They worked together. And one of them say, well, okay, I'll use the policy to do what we need to do. And then the other, the girlfriend policy, they split. They split in half. I mean, they said they were living. I mean, he was back and forth. So, I mean, they had an understanding.
Wow.
Which was kind of crazy because some people that was at the service didn't know. So when they both got up to speak and they were consoling each other, everybody like, oh my God, what is really going on? Is that her girlfriend? They thought it was her girlfriend, but it was actually, they were consoling each other, and then it was kids involved.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, they're very adult about it.
Very progressive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you had it on the other end where the wife wasn't so understanding. This was a separate situation where it was the husband, the wife, and two girlfriends.
Oh man.
And one girlfriend, she was not having it. She was not having it. She got up and she talked about it, and she said it didn't matter who he was with. He died when he was with me, and that all that mattered. And everybody looking like, oh.
Now, how do you guys prepare for something like that? 'Cause obviously you don't see it coming.
Sometimes you see it coming and sometimes you don't. But you know what? It's nothing new under the sun. So it's nothing now that have happened that I'm like, oh, wow, that never happened to me. No. I see it all. I hear it all.
Wow.
So I know you mentioned kids before. Just curious, because they're a totally different animal. How do you deal with children when it comes to grief and teaching them to cope with a loss?
Well, what I do as far as like with my children, I have two boys, 22 and 14. And when my niece passed away, I did get them into counseling, but then just talking to them and letting them know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to remember that person, remember the memories. And also tell adults, because some adults don't want to cry around the children. No, they need to see that emotion. Let them see that emotion so they'll know it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great.
Let me ask you, I had a situation where I celebrated my birthday last year, November. And it was a fun time. We all had a great time. So one of my aunts came to me and she was like, your uncle would be so proud of you right now. You turned out to be a great man. And, my uncle was only 6 years older than me when he passed away. So he's very close in age. And it's been over 10 years since he passed away. And I literally had to walk away because I started getting emotional. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, why am I still getting emotional? I mean, literally, I don't even talk about them because it kind of brings on certain emotions. I always thought to myself, maybe that's kind of weird. I mean, is that something that, is unusual, you would think, or something that maybe someone should, kind of look like, oh, this is crazy? Or is that kind of normal sometimes?
No, I don't think it's crazy at all because people have their own grieving process. Like I said earlier, it's no time frame to grieve. Sometimes, like my niece, she's been deceased for like 6 years. And just sometimes one day out of the blue, I just out of the blue, I just start crying. I just think about her. And then sometimes, I go on to my day-to-day activity and I might not think about her, but sometimes grief will kind of hit you and you like, oh my God, where did that come from? I wasn't even thinking about that person. It's still there. And that's one of the 5 stages of grief is the acceptance. You accept already that this person is gone. So, you may no longer feel the pain, but we just not resisting the reality. And it's not such a struggle anymore. So, sometimes you may not think about your uncle for months. And then one day, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you might think about him. It's still an emotion there that we struggle with deep down inside.
Is there anything that you suggest, how you were saying, like, just allow yourself to cry? You just allow yourself to do whatever, either brings you closer to that moment or?
Yes, if you want to cry, scream, run around the house, whatever makes you feel better, because after you finish crying also cleanses you as well. And then maybe after that good cry, you okay.
Yeah.
You may not think about it no more for maybe another 2-3 years, but that's the part of the acceptance that you have accepted that person has gone on, and you don't struggle with the pain as much. It's still painful, but some days you don't struggle with it as much.
Now, you being so interested in this field and everything, do you have an interesting relationship with the idea of your own mortality or death for yourself?
Yes, me and my husband talk about it all the time. Me and my husband and my kids talk about it all the time. At first, when I was younger, I wanted the extravagant service. I mean, I wanted, my favorite color is red. So I'm like, I wanted to be in red. I wanted to have a full couch casket. I love shoes, so I wanted my shoes to show. And I wanted this big magazine, obituary. But now, as I got older, it's not that serious. I'd rather for my family to keep that money. I told my husband that I want to be donated to science. And even in my death, I want to help somebody. So me living, I'm helping people. And even in my death, I will want to help people. So yes, I want to be donated to science.
I actually have
wonderful.
a similar, I want to be donated to science as well. Cause I'm like, what do I do? Just take up space somewhere else? Like I want someone to learn, but I have a silly question for you. And this is the first time I'm able to ask anyone that might actually know. My only showy portion of me being donated to science, I don't want a obviously showy funeral or anything, but do schools still have real human skeletons in them? Because they do? That's the one weird thing about my thing of I want to donate. I'm like, look at all the organs and then hang my skeleton in a classroom somewhere. So they do actually do
I don't think they're hanging skeletons of real skeletons now, but they do have the ones that are able to do like the donating to science. Sometimes they do let the dissect them, use them for practice, for embalming purposes. So just like the John Does and the Jane Does that's not claimed, they do use them for school.
Okay. So you're not going to be a Halloween decoration.
I'll have to research. Yeah, I know.
I always
I'll
tell
have
my
a little
kids
nameplate.
Right. I always tell my kids I'm a come in their room.
Hey, Denise, as we close out this segment, what advice or what direction would you give someone who is really struggling with the loss of a loved one to the point to where they're maybe not functional, they're no longer wanting to come around other people, and it's really hitting them harder than most? What should that person do to get the additional help they need?
They should really talk to someone ASAP. Grief is so mind-boggling. Like I said, it takes effect on you mentally and physically. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Some people might say, well, I don't want to talk about it. Some people might judge me or it's embarrassing. No. It would help you mentally because depression starts to set in. And then when you're depressed, you don't want to be bothered with no one. You don't want to talk to anybody. So I just suggest that they find someone to talk to. Grieving is a hard hit because now you're thinking about, how do I live without this person? And especially if they played an important role in your life. How do I go on? But counseling, speaking from experience, it helps. It does helps.
Well, I tell you, this was a great show, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us. You definitely enlightened us both on the career side and also on the mental health side as far as dealing with it. We had a lot of fun, and definitely come back one day when you have some time. But I just want to thank all of our great guests for today, my great co-hosts Heather and Kristen, and then also I wanted to let you know to watch for us and make sure that you stay tuned because we're actually just going to commercial break to go into our musical selection. But this has been a great show so far, and we're looking forward to coming back after break. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We have the great Ryan Brockington. Hopefully I'm still saying that correctly.
You are.
Cool. Ryan has been making music for a long time, and we're going to talk about his new song that's out right now, and then also things to come from him in the very near future. Ryan, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Hey, Ryan, want to start off to find out from you, what inspired the song Forevermore?
Well, I wrote the song with 3 of my friends, and the basis of the song was wanting to write something that we thought that was consistent about God, about our faith, and one of those things is him reigning forevermore and being that constant thing that we look to. So we wanted to write something or a message about him that was consistent and concise, and so that's what kind of inspired us to write that song.
So I listened to a bunch of your music.
Right.
And so actually I had it on in the background for most of the day today. So now is this one of your first gospel type songs, or has this been a theme?
So I grew up in church, and I've been singing gospel music, Christian music my whole life. So it wasn't something that I guess I was foreign to do. I'm a part of a great church, and I lead worship there as well. So it was something that was like second nature, or just, it wasn't something that was a struggle for me to write about or talk about because that thing is consistent with me. But I put out some music in 2010. Now I was definitely younger. So when you learn more about your gift and your, musicality and things you want to say, things change. So I ended up taking that music down. So no, technically, no, it's not. But as far as just what's out now, yeah, it kind of is.
All right.
what made you decide to, veer away from that other music that you were doing and strictly focus on the gospel end?
Well, so I'm a songwriter. My music isn't really, I guess the messaging may be a little tad different in this particular song because it's mainly focused on God. But it just kind of just spilled over, I guess, in a sense. It wasn't like I was like targeting, hey, I want to write about this specific thing or not write about this specific thing. I think that when I'm writing, music just comes from the same place. So it kind of has that thought behind it.
That's really cool. And the idea that it like just came, it just, it was, you were inspired to do it. Now, I go to church and my worship leaders, I feel like the energy that you guys are sending us as parishioners is like, I feel it. So are you guys feeling it like that, like as strong as we are as you're seeing it?
Like being on stage in any particular stage, like some people are non-expressive. So you'll have people that are like really be into it. And then you have some people that may not, show it on the outside. And then those are the people that come up to you later and will be like, hey, I really enjoyed this, or this song was really dope, or whatever. So I kind of I don't really base it off of people's faces or expressions, like to gauge if like they like the songs or, whatever. I kind of go for it.
Well, I mean, also, are you guys like feeling the music? Because I feel it at this level that I'm like, I'm tearing up. I'm just like singing loud.
Yeah.
Like, are you guys feeling like that?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like this song, I think we wrote it in like 2018. So I've heard like every iteration of this song from like being in that writing session and to what it sounds like now. So I've lived with it for a while.
That's awesome. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for enjoying it, for real.
Yeah.
So as far as your process goes, what comes first for you, like the music or the lyrics?
It depends. Sometimes, so I get a lot of songs when I'm in the car or ideas of songs. So I might get a melody, and that's when that voice memo, voice recorder on our phones just like is everything. So I have like tons of like little memos of songs or ideas, and then either I will sit down, with a couple friends, piano, guitar, and then we'll kind of just work on it from there. So.
And so how many instruments do you play? Just curious.
I don't play anything.
No.
I can kind of like pick out, I don't play anything. Like I can kind of pick out chords every now and then. But if I feel like it's something that I won't be able to like kind of pick out, I will just, hit somebody up. So.
That's fair.
You talk about like hitting people up or like working with your friends. Is there anyone that like outside of your friend group that you really want to collaborate with?
There's a guy out of North Carolina. His name is Greg Cox, and he's super, super dope. He's a producer and a songwriter, and I've been like kind of communicating with him. So nice. Yeah, hopefully here in the near future, I'll be able to like do some stuff with him.
That's awesome.
That would be great to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. He just got a Grammy for being on one of Kirk Franklin's songs, so he's really super, super dope. So I'm excited about possibly being able to work with him this summer.
Hey, Greg, work with him.
So what other artists inspire you?
So I can kind of go through my phone and kind of see like what I've been listening to currently. Let's see here. What have I been listening to? Like my up-to-date downloads. So there's an artist, his name is Pink Sweats, super dope. His music is mostly like acoustic, but he's really, really, really dope. I'm listening to people from my city, like Jonathan Traylor. So I'm inspired by just good music, no matter what the genre is, or I guess, yeah. So I'm just excited and inspired by anything like that that sounds good, that has a good message behind it, and just kind of feels good.
Mhm.
Does that inspiration for your music come from multiple sources as far as, depending on what mood you're in or how you're feeling, things of that nature?
Yes, of course. All of that plays a part in that, whatever you're going through in life, or however you're feeling, all plays a part in the music that I put out. So for sure, definitely always plays a part.
Now, what was like your first moment of being like, okay, I'm gonna do this for real? Like, I'm gonna put some stuff out.
I don't know what the first moment was. Like, I just kind of remember just being able to like kind of like play around with recording stuff. I guess as a kid, like I would get karaoke machines and stuff like that all the time.
Nice.
And so I would always be like singing to instrumentals and stuff. So, I mean, as a kid, I kind of had been singing for a long time. Probably in high school is when I really kind of got serious about like really wanting to sing. So.
That's so cool.
So do you have any formal training as far as singing goes, or is this all you?
No, I don't have any formal training. Like I've had some voice lessons. Of course, you kind of want to be able to like use your gift or use your instrument better. So I've had like voice lessons to kind of correct bad breathing or bad posture and stuff like that. Doesn't mean it always like sticks and works, but it's something you have to work at. So.
Sure.
Are you in the studio now?
I am. So I have a home set up here in my apartment, so I'm able to like lay down ideas and stuff. And it kind of keeps, being an independent artist, I feel like any songwriter or singer should have like the capability to record at home. It definitely keeps costs down. It's something that you have to learn to do, of course, but practice makes perfect. So we have a studio at my church as well. So since we haven't been able to like really come together and meet, I've been like recording ideas and stuff here at home.
That's so great. So like you have your studio at home, so
Yes.
An idea can come at any time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's so great.
So over the years, what would you say some of your biggest roadblocks were in getting to where you are now?
What were some of my biggest roadblocks? I guess I won't say necessarily a roadblock, but there's always like a thing with like confidence in a sense, like wanting to know that your music is good and people enjoy it, and that it's just as good as anybody else's out, So I don't know if that's necessarily a roadblock. Well, yeah, I guess you would say,
Sure, yeah.
internal roadblock. Yeah, internal roadblock. And just building up that confidence and knowing that, what God has given you is amazing, it's dope, and there's somebody out there that needs what you have.
Yes, that needs your gift for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Was there any? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Heather.
I was just gonna say, as far as speaking of like roadblocks and stuff, I mean, everyone has their own favorite style music or whatever. Did you think that you would lose any of your original like fan base from changing over to mostly Christian or gospel music?
No, not really. I think like the people that follow me kind of know like I guess my other genres of music isn't really that like crazy. So I'm not really like talking about anything that's like really wild. So I think like over time they just kind of figure like they're just gonna roll with it. Either they're like it or not. So no, like I figure. I mean, well, I think when I first did like one of the first like more R&B style sounding songs, I think that I was more nervous about that than I was like doing it going back to gospel, I guess.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
They're sticking with you.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of vocal, especially like on Instagram. It's just about like artists that I like, or different things that I'm working on or writing with. So I think people kind of get like he's just gonna do what he likes. So
that's so great. Yeah, it's great. It's hard to get a fan base to enjoy the transition.
Right, and there's freedom in that too. So like,
and
I'm always like posting clips of stuff that I'm working on. So they're probably like, "Hey, what is this for? Is this for him?" Or so that happens too.
That's great.
Very nice. Now, tell me, how has social media, in your eyes, kind of changed how artists like you get your music out and reach fans?
I mean, for me, it's everything. Like, I think my biggest audience is on Instagram. So for me, like, I get to talk directly to the people that, like my music. Otherwise, they wouldn't follow me or like something about who I am. So, it's a direct link to your fans and your supporters. So to me, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you give a little sneak peek every once in a while to your fans. What can we expect from you in the next year?
So I'm putting out more visuals. I haven't really been that guy that wants to put out videos. Yeah. So while we are able to go anywhere during quarantine and all of that, like a lot of more things are opening up. So I'm able to like book studio spaces and stuff like that. So there will be a couple of visuals coming out. So I'm excited about that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I can't wait to see it.
Ryan, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And we had a great time, and definitely you're more than welcome to come back in the future.
Yes, please, for sure. I would love to come back. I didn't know that it was going to be all of you. Like, I didn't know what
we all want to know.
Yeah.
I was like making sure that I was in the wrong chat.
Surprise.
Surprise. For real. I was not expecting this many people. Very cool. Very cool.
No problem. These are my partners in crime.
It's nice to meet you, ladies. It's nice
to meet you.
Yeah, excited to follow your career.
Absolutely, yes.
Hey, Ryan, before we get out of here, why don't you tell our audience how can they purchase your music or possibly follow you?
You can follow me on all social media at Ryan Brockington. I'm on all of the digital outlets, the SoundCloud, Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify. So everywhere that music is sold, you can definitely hear anything from me.
Awesome. So there's no excuse.
You're absolutely right.
Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. And stay safe out there. And
I will,
always,
yes,
we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you all for watching. We had a great show. Want to thank all of our wonderful guests for coming on to the show.
Absolutely. We learned something new today.
Yes, we learned lots of things and met a bunch of great people.
So stay tuned and watch our next episode of Chase Your Dreams.
The dream